It was widely accepted, particularly by crime historian Carl Safakis, that Rika held the real authority within the outfit. "We'll do it this way," Rika frequently declared to assert his power. Often defying Nitty's orders, he would say, "Now let's hear no more about it." It's also important to remember that Rika, rather than Nitty, was the primary conduit for communication for the National Crime Syndicate's rising leaders, including people like Lucky Luciano, Frank Costello, and Meyer Lansky. An instructive episode occurred in April 1932. While significant syndicate members, Luciano and Lansky, were with Rika and other powerful gangsters from Chicago and New York, police in Chicago caught them in front of the Congress Hotel. The police eventually had no good reason to keep anyone in custody, therefore, everyone who was detained was eventually let go. However, not before a picture of the criminals being lined up by the police was taken. The fact that the East Coast mob bosses flew to Chicago to meet Rika in person shows how much faith they had in him as the leader of the Chicago Mafia. This trust emphasized Rika's crucial position inside the criminal organization. Although Rika had a noticeably subdued appearance, he was just as vicious as any mafia lord. He had only one command when he wanted someone gone: make him go away. He was regarded as one of the most stereotypical gangsters to ever come out of the Chicago outfit by criminal historian Joe Safakis. Rika's purposeful avoidance of flamboyance and his pursuit of media attention, characteristics that ultimately led to both Esposito and Capone's downfall, put him apart from his old masters Esposito and Capone. Rika opted to keep a low profile instead, avoiding the spotlight to escape the prying eyes of the media and law enforcement. He was detained multiple times during his early years with the mob, including a major episode on January 24, 1927, when he was arrested for carrying a concealed weapon and had his picture taken, but he avoided punishment until the 1940s for any serious crimes. Because of his comparatively unblemished police record, which inspired envy among his fellow mob accomplices, they regarded him in high respect. The Chicago outfit's top commanders, including Rika, were convinced to join a labor racket and extortion plan that targeted the Los Angeles film studios in the early 1940s by Frank Nitti. John "Handsome Johnny" Roselli, a Chicago mobster, took over the Projectors Union and put the studios under pressure by threatening strikes and other labor disruptions. Major studios like RKO, Paramount, MGM, and 20th Century Fox made significant payments to the Chicago outfit, totaling several $100,000 in order to prevent labor unrest. When two outfit members were arrested for extortion and promised to testify against the top leadership, this plan suffered a setback. Rika, Nitti, and other mob bosses were charged with taking part in this extortion scheme in March 1943. On March 18, 1943, Nitti met with Rika and the outfit's leadership. Rika and the other leaders demanded that Nitti enter a guilty plea to the extortion charges in order to spare them from imprisonment because the movie studio scheme had been Nitti's invention. Nitti tragically committed suicide the next day, overcome by his terrible claustrophobia and his fear of being imprisoned. Tony Accardo became the underboss of the Chicago outfit after the death of Nitti, and Rika seized the position of boss. For the following 3 decades, Rika and Accardo would serve as the outfit's leaders. Rika and his companions were convicted of
Now
extortion
it'll be a
on
good
December
morning
30th,
when you buy
1943,
something and
and
get the
sentenced
fuck
to 10
out of
years in
here.
federal prison. Rika began serving his sentence at the federal prison in Atlanta at first. However, Rika and his fellow inmates were concerned about their safety due to disturbing circumstances at that facility, including claimed bias against Italians by the Atlanta warden who had viciously beaten outfit mobster Phil D'Andrea. As a result, efforts were made to seek
I don't like
transfer
you.
to Kansas's
You better
Louisville
not fuck this
penitentiary.
up,
Paul Dillon,
or
a
I'll
lawyer in
cut your
St.
goddamn
Louis,
throat.
contributed to this transfer. According to rumors, Dillon offered money to the head of the federal parole
What's the
board to
matter?
help
Can't
get the
find
outfit
what you're
thugs
looking
moved to Leavenworth.
for?
Against the advice of both wardens, Rika and his companions were transferred to Leavenworth in May 1945. Rika made a cash payment to the U.S. Internal Revenue Service, IRS, during this time to resolve his unresolved tax difficulties. After deliberating for a week, the parole board decided to release Rika and his co-defendants on parole on August 13, 1947.
A sale
However,
is a
one of the
sale,
terms of Rika's
even
parole
if it
was
is
that
to
he
a
couldn't interact
scumbag
with
like
other organized
you.
crime figures. Tony Accardo replaced Rika as the Chicago outfit's leader while he was away. The fact that Accardo and Rika shared power, with Rika generally functioning in the background, was nonetheless well acknowledged. Rika was always kept in the loop when major decisions were being made, such as big business deals and most definitely any violent acts. A rare case of power sharing inside organized crime this structure represented. Rika increasingly gave Tony Accardo more control over day-to-day operations of the Chicago outfit as the 1950s got underway. But in 1957, Rika pleasantly surprised Accardo by announcing his intention for Sam Giancana, a protege of his, to succeed Accardo. Accardo was in legal difficulties at the time for tax evasion, and Rika reportedly wanted him to withdraw from the spotlight. Despite his displeasure with the promotion, Accardo accepted it, and in a way, he and Rika both entered a state of semi-retirement. However, it was known that Giancana needed the consent of both Accardo and Rika before making important choices, especially ones that involved violent activities. In sharp contrast to Al Capone's destiny, Rika and Accardo avoided lengthy prison terms by staying in the background. Giancana was finally replaced with Sam Battaglia in 1966 as a result of Accardo taking on more and more high-level decision-making duties as Rika aged older. The Chicago outfit's leadership underwent a substantial transformation as a result of this change. Rika was accused by the federal government of breaking the law by entering the country under the guise of Paul Maglio in 1957. They had tracked down the actual Paul Maglio in Chicago 3 years earlier and brought him in as a witness to testify against Rika, which resulted in the cancellation of Rika's citizenship. The deportation order the authorities first obtained against him was eventually revoked. As a result of his tax evasion conviction and 9-year prison sentence in 1959, Rika had yet another legal setback. Rika was freed after completing his sentence in 27 months. He was, however, charged with tax evasion in 1965, which led to his second indictment. Throughout the legal procedures, Rika argued that the racetrack was where he obtained his entire 1963 salary of $80.59. The charges against Rika were ultimately dismissed. At Chicago's St. Luke's Hospital, Rika tragically departed away on October 11, 1972 from a heart attack. He was buried at Queen of Heaven Cemetery in Hillside, Illinois, ushering in a new phase in the direction of the Chicago outfit. Let's take a look at another Chicago mobster, Charles Fischetti. Among the outfit, he was known as Trigger Happy. Charles was also first cousins of Al Capone. As a young man, Fischetti worked as a driver for Al Capone in the South Brooklyn neighborhood. He made a substantial contribution to Capone's ability to grow his business in Cicero, Illinois in the 1920s. In 1946, when Cosa Nostra leaders met in Havana, Fischetti was given the responsibility of carrying out the contract killing of Bugsy Siegel. Frank Sinatra and Dean Martin were two well-known singers who Fischetti became close friends with over time. His association with Sinatra dates back to the 1940s. It was said that Fischetti received Capone's illegal investments after his death in 1947. The FBI files referred to Fischetti as the last notorious gangster from Chicago. Alongside his brother Rocco, Fischetti turned himself in to the Sergeant at Arms of the United States Senate on April 2, 1951. They were wanted to provide testimony before the Senate, also known as the Kefauver Committee. However, Charles Fischetti passed away just 9 days later of a heart attack in Miami, preventing him from testifying. Let's check out Chicago mob boss James Marcello. Born and raised in Chicago, Marcello's journey to labor with the Department of State Transportation. It wasn't until 1983 that whispers began circulating about his involvement with the notorious Chicago mob, a status that supposedly came with stringent prerequisites according to mob lore. Shockingly, Marcello's lineage didn't align with the traditional Italian roots expected. His mother was Irish, a fact concealed from his higher-ups. Despite lacking a criminal record, Marcello's ascent within the Chicago outfit became undeniable in 1980, serving as a trusted driver for mob bosses Joseph Aiupa and Sam Wings Carlissi. Marcello's close ties and insider knowledge marked him as a pivotal figure within the organization, even though his true heritage was on December 15, 1992, Marcello's and reputed mob kingpin Sam Wings Carlissi were slapped with racketeering charges. The indictment painted Marcello as more than just a foot soldier. He was portrayed as Carlissi's right-hand man, overseeing the illicit activities of their crew in the western suburbs of Chicago. A year later, on December 16, 1993, the gavel fell, sealing their fate. Marcello, Carlissi, and 5 other members of their crew found themselves convicted on multiple racketeering charges. Marcello's role was dissected, revealing his control over various criminal bookmaking to extortion in areas like western Cook County and DuPage County. But it wasn't just the standard fare of mob activities that drew the attention of the courts. Marcello's hands were found to be dirtied with even darker deeds.
Fucking jump scares.
To a gangland plot associated with Anthony.
I don't like this.
Marcello's involvement in financing the nefarious juice loan operations of veteran mobster further cemented his guilt. And the most chilling revelation came Marcello's order to firebomb the Lake Theater in Oak Park, Illinois, a violent maneuver amid a labor dispute. These revelations not only painted Marcello as a key figure within the Chicago outfit, but also hinted at the lengths to which he and his associates were willing to go to maintain their grip on power and make threats to their operations. On April 5, 1995, Marcello faced the reckoning of justice, receiving a sentence of 12 or 1 halal years behind bars for his crimes.
The dude just rage quit.
He addressed U.S. Paul Plunkett with a statement that reflected both bitterness and resignation, declaring, "If my name wasn't James Marcello, I wouldn't be similarly offended. That's all I have to say," as reported by the Chicago Tribune on April 6, 1985. However, freedom eventually beckoned Marcello once more.
Oh!
In November 2003, he emerged from the confines of a federal prison camp in Milan, Michigan, returning to the familiar streets of Lombard, Illinois. Yet his re-entry into civilian life didn't mark a complete departure from the shadows of his past. Revelations surfaced during the notorious Family Secrets trial, shedding light on Marcello's post-prison activities. It was disclosed that he had ventured into the legitimate world of employment, finding work with DVD management, a company based in Oak Brook,
I know
Terrace,
pressing
Illinois,
that button's gonna be a
specializing in
fucking
operating
horrible
their
idea.
servers. This unexpected twist in Marcello's life
Kinda. I don't want to fall in that hole. She can fall in the hole if she wants, but or make a bridge, whatever. Alright.
Under mysterious circumstances, only to be
Kind of
gruesomely
goodies
discovered
do we
months
got?
later in a steel drum at a local sandwich shop. The shop's owner, Sam Rantis, met a similar fate earlier that year, implicating him in the deaths of Samuel Marcello and fellow mobster Joseph Grissafe. This saga of revenge and retribution underscored the violent undercurrents of organized crime in the city. Despite his Irish heritage through his mother, Irene Flynn, Marcello remained deeply entrenched in the mob scene. The Marcello family's connections extended further through Marcello's sister, Flynn, who married William Galeotto, a former police officer with alleged ties to organized crime, as suggested by the Chicago Crime Commission. Marcello's personal life mirrored the complexities of his criminal dealings. Married to Sandra Marcello since the early 1960s, Marcello's marital fidelity was marred by extramarital affairs, leading to the birth of 2 daughters outside of his marriage. His long-standing mistress, Connie Marcello, became a pivotal figure in his life, even testifying against him in the notorious Family Secrets trial, where she revealed financial support provided by Marcello. Amidst these entanglements, Marcello's legacy as a mobster and family man intersected, weaving a tapestry of loyalty, betrayal, and the enduring grip of organized crime on both his personal and professional endeavors. Let's look at the infamous Tony Accardo, also known as the Big Tuna. During the Prohibition era, the notorious figure Tony Accardo earned the infamous moniker Joe Batters for his brutal method of dispatching 3 treacherous mobsters using a baseball bat. While widely attributed to Al Capone, the exact veracity of the quote, "Wow, this young guy is a true Joe Batters," remains unverifiable. Accardo's notoriety expanded beyond the realm of violence when Chicago newspapers bestowed upon him the epithet the Big Tuna, owing to his remarkable feat of landing a highly publicized fishing in a widely circulated photograph. As Accardo's influence grew, so did his audacious claims. He unabashedly boasted, captured on federal wiretaps, of his participation in the infamous St. Valentine's Day massacre of 1929. According to Accardo, a cohort of Capone's gunmen orchestrated the cold-blooded execution of 7 members belonging to Bugs Moran's North Side gang. Additionally, Accardo asserted his involvement in the slaying of Frankie Yale, a prominent Brooklyn gang boss, purportedly under Capone's orders to resolve a contentious dispute. However, some cast doubt on Accardo's alleged central role in both events. The prevailing consensus points towards Gus Winkler, Fred Burke, and Louis Campagna as the likely perpetrators of the Yale murder, while Accardo's association with the St. Valentine's Day massacre remains tangential, if not entirely non-existent. Nevertheless, another significant event potentially ties Accardo to the shadowy world of organized crime. On October 11, 1926, speculation abounds that he played a role in the assassination of Jaime Weiss, the leader of the North Side gang near Chicago's Holy Name Cathedral. The circumstances surrounding Accardo's involvement in this particular incident warrant closer examination and further investigation. Accardo's name has become synonymous with a dark era in American history, filled with violence and intrigue. Yet, separating fact from embellishment remains a daunting challenge. In 1932, Al Capone faced a conviction for tax evasion, resulting in an 11-year prison sentence. This pivotal moment led to Frank the Enforcer Nitti assuming the mantle of the outfit's boss, following his own 18-month sentence for tax evasion. During this period, Tony Accardo had already proven himself as a reliable earner for the organization, prompting Nitti to grant him the autonomy to form his own crew. Simultaneously, Accardo assumed the position of the outfit's head of enforcement. Accardo wasted no time in diversifying the crew's illicit activities, which included highly lucrative ventures such as gambling, loan sharking, bookmaking, extortion, as well as the illicit
Morning.
distribution of
Great.
untaxed alcohol
Here you
and
go.
cigarettes.
Don't
As
spend it all
customary
in
for
one
the
place.
boardrooms within the outfit, Accardo received a 5% share of the crew's earnings, colloquially known as the street tax. In turn, Accardo dutifully paid a portion of his proceeds to the overall boss of the outfit. Adhering to the organization's strict code of conduct, failure to pay the street tax, or offering an amount significantly less than the owed sum, resulted in
Oh,
severe
look who's
consequences.
tired of... let's get one thing straight. You're not working with me. You're working for
Notably,
me.
his crew boasted future heavyweight figures of the outfit, including Gus Gussie Alex and Joseph Joey Doves Ayupa. During this era, Accardo solidified his standing within the outfit, not only as a proficient earner, but also as an influential figure who commanded the respect and loyalty of his owners. Throughout the 1940s, Tony Accardo's influence within the outfit continued to grow. This period saw a series of investigations and charges targeting senior members of the organization, who were accused of leveraging their control over labor unions to extort substantial sums of money from Hollywood studios by threatening strike actions. Unfortunately, Frank the Enforcer Nitti, who suffered from claustrophobia and feared another prison term, tragically took his own life in 1943. Following Nitti's untimely demise, Paul, the waiter Rika, who had been effectively running the outfit since Al Capone's imprisonment, officially assumed the role of boss and appointed Accardo as his underboss. Rika and Accardo would go on to lead the outfit for the next 3 decades until Rika's passing in 1972. During this time, Accardo gradually gained more authority and responsibility within the organization. Rika's involvement in the Hollywood scandal resulted in a 10-year prison sentence. As a result, Accardo assumed the position of acting boss. 3 years later, when Rika's parole conditions barred him from any contact with mobsters, Accardo effectively took over as the boss of the outfit. Nevertheless, Rika remained a significant presence in the background, serving as a senior consultant and sharing power with Accardo. Accardo's ascent to the top of the outfit marked a new era of leadership, with his astute decision-making and ability to navigate complex situations solidifying his position as a respected and influential figure within the organization. Let's check out the outfit's consigliere Joey Lombardo. Joey Lombardo, a notorious figure within the Chicago outfit, began his criminal journey as a loan shark and jewel thief before ascending to the position of captain of his own crew. Lombardo would oversee operations on Chicago's Grand Avenue. Joey Lombardo's criminal record spans decades, marked by significant arrests and allegations of violence. In 1963, he faced charges of kidnapping and loan sharking, indicating his involvement in serious criminal activities early in his career. Within organized crime circles, Lombardo was referred to as Lumpy due to his penchant for administering beatings that left visible lumps on his victim's skin. His rise to the upper echelons of the Chicago mob was solidified by a 1978 photograph dubbed The Last Supper, capturing Lombardo dining alongside the city's highest-ranking hoodlums, including the late Godfather Tony Accardo. Despite attempts to distance himself from Chicago's organized crime syndicate, including placing a newspaper advertisement disavowing any affiliation, law enforcement and experts in monology remain skeptical of Lombardo's claims. His enduring influence and reputation within the criminal underworld persisted, cementing his status as a formidable figure in the annals of Chicago's mob history. Lombardo's influence extended beyond the streets of Chicago. He played a pivotal role in the outfit's expansion into the gambling interests of Las Vegas, consolidating the organization's control in the city's lucrative industry. However, Lombardo's criminal activities eventually caught up with him. In a significant legal development on December 15, 1982, Lombardo, along with Teamsters Union President Roy Williams and insurance executive Alan Dorfman, faced conviction for attempting to bribe U.S. Senator Howard Cannon of Nevada. Their aim was to prevent the passing of a trucking deregulation bill that would have threatened the mob's interests. Lombardo was believed to hold a prominent position as the chief orchestrator of labor union operations for the Mafia at the time of his arrest. Joey Lombardo, hailing from a sizable family of nearly a dozen mobsters. Known for his eccentric courtroom behavior, Lombardo's antics, such as covering his face with a newspaper adorned with eye-hole cutouts and a cigarette hole, earned him notoriety and a distinct persona. This episode marked a notable chapter in Lombardo's criminal career, illustrating his involvement in high-stakes corruption and his strategic maneuvers to maintain the outfit's influence. On January 20th, 1983, Alan Dorfman, an insurance executive implicated alongside Lombardo, was shot and killed in the parking lot of the now-demolished Purple Hyatt Hotel in Lincolnwood. Authorities suspected that Dorfman's murder was orchestrated by the mob to prevent him from cooperating with prosecutors in the bribery case. Though Lombardo was not directly accused in Dorfman's murder, the incident underscored the ruthless tactics employed by the Chicago outfit to maintain control and silence potential informants. Despite his proximity to such events, Lombardo faced consequences primarily related to the bribery case. He received a 15-year prison sentence, serving time until his release in 1992. Lombardo's ability to evade direct implication in Dorfman's murder further exemplifies his adeptness in navigating the criminal underworld and avoiding accountability for his actions. Joey Lombardo's death marks the end of an era in the Chicago underworld, as he takes with him a trove of closely guarded mob secrets. Throughout his life, Lombardo remained steadfast in his commitment to the outfit's code of silence, known as Omerta. He never admitted to any wrongdoing, nor did he express any remorse for his life of crime. Until his final breath, Lombardo remained loyal to the Mafia's code, refusing to cooperate with authorities or divulge any information that could implicate himself or his associates. His unwavering adherence to Omerta underscores the depth of his allegiance to the Chicago outfit and highlights the enduring power of the Mafia's culture of silence.
Better go to the bathroom real quick.
Lombardo's passing,
Oh!
a chapter of Chicago's criminal history closes, leaving behind a legacy of secrecy and intrigue that will continue to captivate and mystify observers for years to come. Let's check out legendary Chicago mobster Tony Spilotro. Spilotro relocated to Las Vegas in 1971 to run the Chicago outfit's business there. He established the Hole-in-the-Wall Gang, a crew of seasoned assassins, safecrackers, and thieves. Because of their propensity for drilling through the outer walls and ceilings of the homes and buildings they burgled, the group earned the nickname Hole-in-the-Wall Gang in the media. Frank Collada traveled to Las Vegas in early 1979 to join Spilotro. On July 4, 1981, the Hole-in-the-Wall Gang robbed Bertha's Gifts and Home Furnishings on East Sahara Avenue in Las Vegas. The robbery was a bust as much of the gang was arrested, including Collada, Joe Blasco, Leo Guardino, Ernest Davino, Lawrence Newman, and Wayne Matecki, each charged with burglary, conspiracy to commit burglary, attempted grand larceny, and possession of burglary tools. Around this time, Spilotro had an affair with Frank Rosenthal's wife, Jerry McGee. In 1982, Collada was imprisoned and approached by the FBI with a wiretap of Spilotro talking with someone about having to clean our dirty laundry, which Collada took as an insinuated contract on his life. Due to this, in July 1982, Collada finalized an agreement with the prosecutors. In September 1983, Spilotro was indicted for conspiracy and obstruction of justice in the Sherwin Jerry Lisner murder and released on a $100,000 bail. At a trial in October 1983, Collada admitted that he was involved in over 300 crimes, including 4 murders, perjury, robberies, and burglaries. He also testified that Spilotro, his boss in Las Vegas, ordered him to make the telephone call that lured one of the 1962 murder victims, William McCarthy, to a fast food restaurant. In 1962, Collada had killed William McCarthy and James Miraglia, who were found dead in the trunk of a car on May 14, 1962. McCarthy's head had been placed in a vise and his throat slashed, while Miraglia was strangled. Spilotro was acquitted later that year. Spilotro's defense attorney was future Las Vegas Mayor Oscar Goodman. Let's check out the life and crimes of Chicago native Frank Rosenthal. Let's get into Chicago outfit associate Frank Lefty Rosenthal. Born into a Jewish family, Frank Rosenthal, a native of Chicago, Illinois, spent his formative years in the energetic west side of the city. Rosenthal became quite interested in sports betting when he was young and practiced his trade in the famous Wrigley Field bleachers. His love of sports was so intense that he frequently skipped class to go to other athletic events in Chicago. Because of his early exposure to the world of gambling and odds, he developed a profound awareness of the nuances of betting odds and percentages. Rosenthal's introduction to the world of betting and odds was further enriched by his father's involvement in horse racing. With his father owning racehorses, young Frank was exposed to the world of wagering and learned the art of calculating betting odds from a tender age. These formative experiences laid the foundation for Rosenthal's future career in the gambling industry. By the mid-1950s, Frank Rosenthal had ventured into the clandestine world of the Chicago outfit, a notorious organized crime syndicate. Recognized for his exceptional ability to set odds accurately, he assumed a pivotal role within the criminal organization. Under his leadership, the outfit operated the largest illegal bookmaking establishment in the United States, masterminding a sprawling operation that spanned the nation. Rosenthal and the outfit cleverly hid their illicit operations under the pretense of a home renovation company while operating out of Cicero, Illinois. They were able to operate undetected and avoid the attention of law authorities. Notably, Rosenthal and the outfit took things a step further by buying contracts illegally in order to rig and manipulate athletic events for their own financial gain. By taking advantage of the weaknesses in the sports industry, They added even another degree of complexity to their illegal organization. Frank Rosenthal was eventually apprehended by the law. He was indicted as a co-conspirator in several cases involving sports bribery, which posed a serious threat to his freedom in business. To avoid further legal issues and to get away from the increasing pressure, Rosenthal made the tactical decision to move his business to Miami's North Bay Village. By changing his location, he was able to avoid being observed by police authorities and carry on his illegal operations with a lower danger of being caught. In sum, Frank Rosenthal's journey from the bleachers of Wrigley Field to the helm of a sprawling illegal bookmaking operation is a testament to his astute understanding of odds, his connection to the Chicago outfit, and his willingness to exploit the world of sports for illicit gain. The story serves as a vivid illustration of the intricate and often hidden dynamics of the gambling and organized crime worlds in mid-20th century America. Frank Rosenthal had become a well-known name in the fields of sports betting, odds-making, and handicapping by the start of 1961. He frequently saw key Chicago outfit members, including well-known individuals like Jackie Cerrone and Fiore Buccieri, in the vivacious city of Miami. Public and law enforcement interest in Rosenthal was growing as a result of his image as a cunning operator and his connections to organized crime. In a significant turn of events, Rosenthal received a subpoena in 1961 to testify before U.S. Senator John McClellan's subcommittee on gambling and organized crime. He faced accusations of being involved in match fixing, a serious charge that could have had severe legal consequences. During his appearance before the subcommittee, Rosenthal invoked the Fifth Amendment an astonishing 37 times, refusing to answer questions that could potentially incriminate him. Remarkably, despite the intense scrutiny and allegations, he managed to evade formal charges in connection with this matter. However, the incident had repercussions as Rosenthal was subsequently barred from entering racing establishments in Florida, further restricting his activities in the state. Involvement in illicit gambling and bookmaking was the main cause of Rosenthal's increasing run-ins with the law. Amazingly, he only received one conviction while being the subject of several arrests. He entered a plea of not guilty in 1963 and admitted to allegedly paying a New York University basketball player to sway the result of a college game in North Carolina. For the first time in his life, Rosenthal was found guilty after being found guilty. Frank Rosenthal was also tied to a series of business and car bombs in the wider Miami area in the 1960s. These strange and violent occurrences generated concerns about his involvement in illegal activities outside of gambling. During this turbulent time, the Federal Bureau of Investigation, FBI, developed a large case file on Rosenthal, gathering a whopping 300 pages of investigative information. Federal law enforcement agencies increased their attention of Rosenthal, putting the strain on him and making it increasingly impossible for him to continue his operations without interruption. Recognizing the need to once again elude the prying eyes of law enforcement, Rosenthal made a strategic move in 1968. He decided to relocate to Las Vegas, Nevada, a city known for its burgeoning gambling industry and a place where he could potentially rebuild his empire while flying under the radar. This move to the heart of the American gambling mecca would mark a pivotal moment in Rosenthal's turbulent and controversial career, setting the stage for his further exploits and entanglements in the world of high-stakes gambling and organized crime. Frank Rosenthal was not only a famous person in the world of sports gambling, he was also the architect behind some of Las Vegas's most iconic casinos during a period when the Chicago outfit wielded considerable power over the city's gaming industry. Rosenthal's influence extended to a number of well-known casinos, including the Stardust, Fremont, Marina, and Hacienda. He skillfully mastered the complexities of the underworld, while maintaining an aura of respectability while operating these casinos clandestinely. Rosenthal's development of the first sportsbook within a casino was one of his seminal contributions to the world of gambling. This trailblazing step established the Stardust as a global hub for sports betting, reinforcing its position as a go-to destination for sports bettors wishing to wager on a variety of athletic events. Rosenthal's unique strategy revitalized the casino sector, demonstrating his ability to stay ahead of the competition. Beyond just sports betting, Rosenthal had a broad strategic outlook. He made a groundbreaking choice to hire more female blackjack dealers after realizing untapped potential. This decision, while unorthodox at the time, changed everything for the Stardust. The hiring of female dealers not only made the casino's staff more diverse, but also helped to increase profits significantly. This risky move doubled the Stardust's revenue in a single year, demonstrating Rosenthal's economic savvy and determination to defy accepted wisdom. Rosenthal's audacious endeavors did not go unnoticed by law enforcement. In 1976, the FBI and the Las Vegas Metropolitan Police Department uncovered a secret operation of the 4 major casinos, all without the proper state gaming licenses. This discovery led to a crucial hearing that would determine Rosenthal's eligibility for a gaming license. The chairman of the Nevada Gaming Control Board at the time, None other than future U.S. Senator Harry Reid presided over the hearing. Rosenthal's past arrest record and well-documented association with organized crime, particularly his long-standing friendship with Chicago mob enforcer Anthony Spilotro from their boyhood days, weighed heavily against him. Ultimately, he was denied a license, a significant setback in his career. Frank Rosenthal's high-stakes personal and professional lives were both equally dramatic. On May 4th, 1969, he married Jerry McGee, complicating an already tangled life. McGee has a daughter from a previous marriage named Robin L. Marmore. The couple later had 2 children together named Stephen and Stephanie. However, both partners' cheating ruined their marriage. Unbelievably, McGee had a covert relationship with none other than Anthony Spilotro, and this information would have a significant impact. Rosenthal and McGee's turbulent marriage came to an end in divorce in 1981. Rosenthal mostly blamed McGee's issues with alcohol and drug addiction for the breakdown of their marriage, which had a negative impact on him. Sadly, Jerry McGee suffered a terrible end after leaving Rosenthal and escaping with some of his savings. She was found dead at a Los Angeles motel on November 9th, 1982, at the age of 46, apparently from a drug overdose. Her accidental demise, brought on by a fatal trifecta of booze, cocaine, and Valium, closed a heartbreaking chapter in the Rosenthal tragedy. On a fateful day, October 4th, 1982, Frank Rosenthal narrowly escaped a deadly assassination attempt in the bustling city of Las Vegas. This sinister plot unfolded when an explosive device, cunningly attached to the gasoline tank of his car, detonated as he began his vehicle. The attempt on his life was a brazen act of violence orchestrated by individuals who remained shrouded in mystery. Remarkably, Rosenthal's survival can be attributed to a seemingly mundane automotive feature: a stout metal plate positioned beneath the driver's seat of his 1981 Cadillac Eldorado. This unique plate had been installed by General Motors on all Eldorado models to address a balancing issue. In an ironic twist of fate, this unassuming metal shield played a pivotal role in Rosenthal's survival, absorbing much of the explosion's devastating force and protecting him from what would have otherwise been a fatal blast. The assassination attempt's perpetrators' names remained unknown, but a number of people and organizations were investigated as potential offenders. They included Frank Balistrieri, the ruthless mob leader from Milwaukee who had acquired the menacing moniker Mad Bomber among law enforcement. Conversations overheard on wiretaps indicated that Rosenthal was the target of deep-seated resentment on the part of Balistrieri, who blamed Rosenthal for the legal issues facing the casinos run by the mob. Balistrieri had sinisterly suggested that he wanted full satisfaction for what he believed to be Rosenthal's wrongdoings in the weeks prior to the attack. Furthermore, Kansas City mob bosses also emerged as potential suspects in this chilling episode. FBI wiretap recordings captured conversations in which these figures disparagingly referred to Rosenthal as crazy. It hinted at possible resentment and a motive for foul play. Anthony Spilotro, a prominent enforcer for the Chicago outfit, also remained on the radar of investigators. Whether acting independently or on behalf of the organized crime syndicate, his involvement in the assassination attempt was a subject of scrutiny. Additionally, outlaw bikers who had connections to Rosenthal's ex-wife, Jerry McGee, were considered as potential associates in this sinister act. The complexity of Rosenthal's personal and professional life made it challenging to pinpoint a single motive or responsible party. Despite extensive investigations, the perpetrators behind the assassination attempt on Frank Rosenthal were never apprehended or charged. This incident served as a stark reminder of the dangerous world in which Rosenthal operated, where power struggles, rivalries, and personal vendettas could have life-altering consequences. Following the terrifying assassination attempt on his life, Frank Rosenthal decided to relocate significantly. About 6 months later, he moved to Laguna Niguel, California, where he changed his priorities to one that was quieter and more focused on his family. Rosenthal spent his time cultivating the talents and goals of his 2 children, both of whom had established themselves as talented young swimmers. Rosenthal's background continued to hang over his attempts despite his departure from the turbulent Las Vegas scene. He was officially barred from Las Vegas casinos in 1987, which put him in what was known as the Black Book informally. Due to his claimed connections to organized crime, this classification declared him persona non grata inside the Nevada casino sector, virtually prohibiting him from any involvement or access into these establishments. Nevertheless, in a surprising turn of events, Rosenthal achieved a remarkable victory in June 1990 when he successfully secured a court ruling that allowed for the removal of his name from the Black Book. Represented during the hearing by the future mayor of Las Vegas, Oscar Goodman, Rosenthal temporarily overcame the ban that had limited his activities for years. However, the legal battle did not end there. In 1991, Rosenthal and Goodman faced a setback when the Nevada Supreme Court ruled against them, ultimately reinstating his ban from Las Vegas casinos. Undeterred by these legal challenges, Rosenthal embarked on a journey that led him to various places. He ventured from Laguna Niguel to Boca Raton, Florida, where he managed a sports bar, Crocs. Later, he settled in Miami Beach, where he delved into the world of online sports betting, running a sports betting website and offering his expertise as a consultant to several offshore sports betting companies. Frank Rosenthal's tumultuous and enigmatic life came to a close on October 13, 2008, when he passed away at the age of 79. His death was attributed to an apparent heart attack, marking the end of an era filled with high-stakes gambling, organized crime ties, legal battles, and unexpected twists. Following his demise, a surprising revelation came to light through the investigative efforts of Las Vegas Review-Journal reporter Jane Ann Morrison. It was disclosed that both Frank Rosenthal and his wife, Jerry, had been top-tier informants for the FBI. This revelation added yet another layer of complexity to the Rosenthal story, shedding new light on the intricate web of relationships and secrets that defined his life in the shadowy world of organized crime and high-stakes gambling. Let's check out Chicago outfit underboss Anthony Zizzo. Anthony Zizzo, a suburban resident of Westmont, left his home one day, informing his wife that he had a lunch meeting scheduled on Rush Street. However, his plans took a mysterious turn when his car was discovered abandoned near a restaurant in Melrose Park. The circumstances surrounding his disappearance suggest a potential link to organized crime. Reports suggest that Zizzo had been embroiled in a dispute with mob boss Michael Fatboy Sarno regarding the operation of illegal video poker machines. Typically, such conflicts within the underworld would be resolved through negotiation and mediation. However, in this instance, the failure to reconcile may have had fatal consequences. As one insider remarked, the decision not to resolve the dispute amicably can often lead to dire outcomes, hinting at the possibility that Zizzo's disagreement with Sarno could have ultimately resulted in his demise. Anthony Zizzo's disappearance has drawn attention from investigators who have identified prominent figures in the underworld as potential suspects. Among these individuals are Joe the Sledgehammer Andriaki and Albie Falcon Vina, both notorious hoodlums with ties to organized crime. Despite their association with the case, no formal charges have been filed against them. The involvement of Andriaki raises further questions about the circumstances surrounding Zizzo's disappearance. Their reputations as seasoned criminals suggest a possible connection to the events leading up to Zizzo's vanishing. However, the lack of concrete evidence or legal action leaves the case shrouded in mystery, with Zizzo's fate remaining unresolved. Joe the Sledgehammer. Andriaki's rise within the Chicago outfit is a tale of enduring power and influence. In 1989, the Chicago Sun-Times heralded his elevation to second in command, attributing his monikers the Sledgehammer to his brute force approach to safe cracking, and the Builder to his adeptness in criminal enterprises. This announcement followed Andriaki's stint in prison from 1968 to 1971 on burglary charges. Throughout the years, Andriaki's name frequently surfaced in connection with high-profile events within the criminal underworld. Following a 1992 bombing incident linked to a cooperating witness, he was summoned before a federal grand jury alongside other reputed mobsters. By 1995, the Chicago Tribune identified him as an underboss, responsible for overseeing day-to-day operations for the outfit. As the years passed, Andriaki's influence only seemed to solidify. In 1997, reports positioned him at the pinnacle of the outfit's hierarchy, noting his close association with Kingpin John DeFranco. Even after the 2007 Family Secrets trial, which saw the incarceration of several outfit members, Andriaki's grip on power remained unyielding. Through decades of Cosa Nostra activity and leadership, Joe Andriaki's story encapsulates the enduring legacy of the Chicago outfit, where loyalty, ruthlessness, and cunning are the currency of power. Okay, that's it for now. Thanks for watching. Make sure to subscribe to the channel and see you on the next one.
1988, a year when you could feel America was becoming more materialistic. It was out with the old.
Tell him, Ray. Teamwork sucks.
And in with the new.
Are those Bugle Boy jeans that you're wearing?
Oh, yes. They are Bugle Boy jeans.
Would this turning point be for the worse, or would people see through all of this?
What's your problem?
Today, we're going to talk about the news, culture, sports and entertainment, and all that was weird in the 80s. This is Timeline.
It's 1939. Europe is in a crisis, and in Nova Scotia, Canada, on a fishing expedition, a Chicago man has just caught a very big fish. It's a 400-pound tuna, and the local press are besides themselves. So much so that he's photographed with it, put in the front page of the papers and all that. Shortly after that photo's in the papers, the Chicago newspapers gain wind of it, and they have a new nickname to bestow on one of the leaders of one of, if not the most powerful organized crime organization in the country, the Chicago Outfit. Tony Accardo will now be known as the Big Tuna in the Chicago papers. Yeah, the Big Tuna. A decade earlier, though, Accardo earns a very different nickname. This one bestowed by legendary mobster Al Capone. It's 1929, and Chicago is a bloodbath. The city is deep in prohibition, which means the booze peddlers and the bar and nightclub owners are getting filthy rich. And so are, of course, the organized crime groups that run those rackets. This includes the fast-becoming infamous Chicago Outfit, Chicago's offshoot of the Sicilian mafias running things back east, headed up by none other than Al Capone. But Capone, he's got competition, like Bugs Moran and his Northside gang. Moran hated Capone as a competitor and because he hated prostitution, which Capone was heavily involved with. And his Northside gang had been fighting a war with Capone's outfit for years, back when it was headed up by Capone's mentor, Johnny Torrio. There were numerous attempts on each other's lives, and the outfit even managed to take out the two previous leaders of the Northside gang. Moran had just attempted to kill a member of Capone's gang when Capone commits the infamous St. Valentine's Day massacre, when the members of his gang dress up like cops and gun down 7 of Bugs' gang after lining them up against the wall. That's the day the Chicago Outfit pretty much takes over the city. And in the decades that come, for honestly the next century pretty much, the outfit grows to become one of, if not the most powerful mafia in the United States, taking over the entire city, having its tentacles stretch everywhere from police to judges to politicians, well into the 1990s and 2000s even. But back then, Capone is smart enough to know it was time to escape out of town, which he did right before the massacre went down. He hadn't completely solidified his place as the Godfather, though, and when he's out of town, 3 of his goons take the opportunity to start telling folks that they're the ones now in charge. Capone hears about what's going on, so when he gets back to town, he throws a party for these guys to show his appreciation of all the hard work they've been doing. He invites them to a dinner at a mob-owned casino in Indiana, just across state lines from Illinois. During the dinner, the 3 usurpers are seized by Capone's goons and brought out back. Outside, one of Capone's young up-and-comers, a kid with real promise, beats the 3 to death with a baseball bat. Capone, watching it happen, says, quote, "Boy, that kid is a real Joe Batters." The nickname Joe Batters is born. And Joe Batters, he's going to go on to become arguably the most successful American mob boss of all time. This is the Underworld Podcast. Welcome back to another episode of the Underworld Podcast, where 2 journalists who have traveled all over the world bring you new episodes of organized crime stories from all over the globe every week. You listen to it, and then advertisers pay us money to pitch their products to you, the listener. And that's how the world works. I am one of your hosts, Danny Gold. I am joined, as always, by Sean Williams, the bane of all of our existences, and someone who we are trying to fast track into becoming an influencer. How's that working out for you so far?
Yeah, I mean, people aren't really going to know behind the curtain how much of a bane of your existence I am today, eh? But yeah, that is the nicest intro you've given me for a while. I mean, I'm concerned my face is a bit asymmetrical. I look like a confused chimp when I'm doing questions on camera, but you know, whatever. If people want to find us on YouTube, I'm going to be doing a lot more video interviews with some really cool people. So check that out.
Yeah, and as always, bonus episodes, interviews, and more, including a weekly international organized crime news roundup that Sean does every week at patreon.com/underworldpodcast for $5 a month to help us keep going. You can also sign up on Spotify and at iTunes.
Yeah, and I think Danny's brother Noah finally figured out what we couldn't do in over 3 years and stuck the merch on the various socials as well, even though Facebook seems to be trying to block us at every moment. Cheers, Zuckerberg. But yeah, you can check that out as well. Get t-shirts and shit like that.
We'll probably have more information on that, I think, in the coming weeks because we're still figuring that part out. Now, we're actually going to dip into a classic American
Didn't we
mafia
agree
tale
your
right
first
here.
job was
We
going to be
don't
free?
usually do that, but I spent a lot of time in the
this is
Midwest this
all-
past
If
year.
you want a job
on
from me,
sort of Midwest
what are you
mafia-related
standing there
stories.
for? Don't you
So
have
this
work
seemed
to
a good
do?
one to do, but don't worry, the next few episodes are all around the globe. You know, too often this podcast, it's filled with broken dreams and dashed hopes. New York rises
Stuff,
that
right?
don't last too long. Yeah, and are soon replaced with
I'm
devastating
hoping my
fails.
microphone works now.
Cautionary Tales brought to you by Cautionary Tales, as I like to describe it. But every now and then, it's good to do an episode that's hopeful, you know, where things work out, at least for one guy. But definitely not the bodies, the trail of bodies and their loved ones that he left behind. But that's where we have Tony Accardo, the Big Tuna.
Yeah, I mean, that doesn't sound quite as cool in my accent, the big tuna. Just sounds like some Downton Abbey shit. But yeah, it's going to be a cool one.
Yeah, I mean, you probably know the reference because, you know, you had the worst version of The Office, but that was like a big running joke on the American version of The Office. I'm sure our millennial listeners appreciate that. Antonio Tony Accardo is born in 1906 in Chicago to parents who had just come over from Sicily. His parents were no different from tens of thousands of other Sicilians coming to the U.S. at the time, heading for Boston, New York, Providence, other cities, and yes, of course, Chicago. He's one of 6, and his dad's a shoemaker, so you know what that means. He's pulled out of school at 14 to get a job, and he starts working. Actually, I don't know if, like, do we know what that means if your dad's a shoemaker? Maybe you have good shoes? For some reason in my head, I was like, oh, that means he's not going to finish school, which he doesn't. He gets pulled out of school at 14 to get a job, and he starts working as a delivery boy at a grocery store, which is fortuitous because that year just happens to be, right, 1920, right? And what happens in 1920? Prohibition, which is the best thing to happen to organized crime before the invention of this podcast 100 years later. So young Tone, as a delivery boy, he starts making deliveries because that's what delivery boys do, Sean. And of course, the hottest business in town and all over Little Italy, where young Tone is working, is selling booze.
Yeah, that's illegal, right? He can't do that. It sounds pretty naughty.
It's definitely naughty, but that's where the money is, my friend.
Oh, wow.
At 16, Tony hooks up with the Circus Cafe gang, which is one of the various local gangs running around Chicago. These gangs sort of served as, like, you know, the minor leagues where more major organized crime groups would scout out the talents, typical farm team stuff, and it's named after the cafe where they would all hang out at. One of the more prominent gang members is Vincenzo Antonio Gabaldi, who had changed his name to Jack McGurn, and whose nickname is Machine Gun Jack, which is a sweet nickname, and he takes Tony under his wing after seeing talent in him. So young Tony starts out with pickpocketing, break-ins, and soon graduates to armed robberies, while also picking up on the other mob rackets like gambling, which was a huge one, and of course booze. In 1926, Machine Gun Jack, who is you know, I'd say much more of a badass than Machine Gun Kelly, he promotes Accardo to be his driver and personal bodyguard. Machine Gun Jack is seen as like a rising star himself as a hitman, and he's soon recruited by Al Capone. Capone at the time is head of the outfit. I imagine all my American listeners probably know this, but the outfit is basically the entire Chicago Sicilian Mafia. What ends up being different about Chicago outfit as opposed to the New York mob is that the New York mob is split into 5 families who divide up New York City. And the Chicago outfit is never divided. And they end up ruling all of Chicago as the sole mafia, which is, you know, Chicago is a major city. It's obviously not as big as New York, but it's not divided 5 ways, and the competition isn't there. So you can only imagine how powerful the outfit grows to be. During this period, though, the outfit is engaged in multiple bloody feuds with other criminal organizations over the millions being made in Prohibition and other rackets, which is why they need hitters like Machine Gun Jack and the Circus Gang.
Yeah, that's like something out of a DC comic. I mean, you really do got to hand it to the American Mafia. They got their names down pat, right? Not like those chumps from Taiwan last week.
I mean, yeah, but also, like, half the guys were named Bugs. Like, that was their name for, like, a crazy guy, you know? Which is not the best nickname. Like, it doesn't strike fear in my heart.
It'll be like
These
that
guys,
smirk
they get a
off
rep
your
as
face.
basically the
Doing
armory
one
in the
job
outfit because
doesn't
they
make
store
us
and distribute
pals.
the heavy weapons
Got
for the
it.
various feuds. Capone rules the south side of Chicago, but wants to expand to the north side, where there's a very lucrative speakeasies and gambling halls. But the north side is run by
For
Bugs
fuck's sake,
Moran
what
and his
is it
mostly
now?
Irish gang. Capone is planning for a real war, so he asks Machine Gun for some more soldiers, and he puts on Accardo, who starts out as a lookout but is soon promoted to being a driver and bodyguard for Capone himself. And then all hell just
Don't let
breaks
the door
loose.
hit you on your way
Shootouts
out.
are happening all over. You know, they got the Tommy guns hanging off the cars and all that. Mobsters are being dropped left and right. 30 are killed in the first 4 months of 1926. In September of 1926, a bunch of mobsters pull up on Capone as he's eating lunch, and hundreds of rounds of machine gun fire are sprayed all over the restaurant. When the gunfire starts going off, Accardo pushes Capone to the floor, jumps on top of him like Secret Service style, or like Fordio does. Fordio does in The Sopranos. And this story turns into like Chicago mob lore. So we don't really know how accurate it is, but what we do know is that Capone is very impressed by the young Tone. In 1929, with Capone still battling the Northside gangsters led by Bugs Moran. So that's basically also when the St. Valentine's Day Massacre occurs that we just talked about. 7 members of the Bugs Moran gang are killed, and Capone and the outfit basically take over. Segue, as I mentioned, I was interviewing or spending time with some prominent Midwest gangster mafia guys, basically, who are all retired. One of them happens to love Al Capone. He's in his 70s, and he was trying to tell me that Capone was actually innocent, and it really was just cops who did the massacre, which is definitely not true.
Yeah, you got your Swifties, your Capones. I mean, we've got some really weird Mencho reply guys on the YouTube videos as well, and yeah, those guys need to log off.
Yeah, I mean, you know, it's if you're watching Tokyo Vice, a big thing about that is